Imagine sitting in a painfully quiet concert hall.
Oh, I know that feeling.
Right. The orchestra is playing this revered, centuries-old masterpiece.
Hmm.
And everyone around you is nodding in that solemn, highly educated sort of appreciation.
Like, they totally understand every single note.
Exactly. But deep down, you are secretly wishing you were just at a loud, sweaty nightclub.
Yeah, just completely somewhere else.
And you feel this twinge of guilt, right? You
Yeah.
think, maybe my tastes are just a little bit, lowbrow.
Right, like you're somehow failing at appreciating art.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, if you have ever felt that way, you are actually in excellent company.
You really are.
Today, we are taking a deep dive into an absolutely incredible stack of sources.
We have some really great stuff today.
We do. We've got a fascinating analytical article, a complete set of original theatrical lyrics, and a really comprehensive historical reference guide.
And our mission for this deep dive is pretty wild, honestly.
It is. We've unpacked just a single song from 1936.
Yep. Cole Porter's Red Hot and Blue.
Right. And we want to discover how this one piece of music functions as this brilliant, hilarious manifesto for American musical modernity.
It is such a remarkable set of documents to pull apart, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what we are looking at today isn't just, a catchy tune from the golden age of Broadway.
No, it's way more than that.
We are exploring how one of the theater's most sophisticated, educated minds deliberately drew a battle line right in the sand.
A total cultural battle line.
Exactly. On one side of that line, you have the revered European classical tradition.
The music of those hushed concert halls we were just talking about.
Right. And then on the other side, you have the vibrant, noisy, completely intoxicating world of American jazz and swing.
And Cole Porter just took those two worlds, smashed them together, and basically asked his audience to pick a side.
He really did. It's a deep dive into an era when popular music was like a literal declaration of identity.
And to really understand the sheer power of this musical manifesto, we first need to travel back to the specific cultural moment that birthed it, right?
We absolutely have to set the scene.
So the year is 1936.
Yep.
And America is desperately looking for a reason to dance.
They really needed it.
The song is the title track from the Broadway musical Red Hot and Blue.
And when we say Broadway musical in 1936, we are talking about a massive, star-studded spectacle.
Oh, totally. Our sources highlight that this show featured the absolute heavy hitters of the era.
The biggest names you could possibly get.
Right, like Ethel Merman, Jimmy Durante, and Bob Hope.
Right. And, to really understand the weight of those names, you have to realize what they represented mechanically on a stage.
Like physically what they brought to the performance.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
Ethel Merman didn't just sing. She possessed this legendary brassy voice that could just cut right through a massive theater without a microphone.
Wow, no microphone at all.
None. She was like human electricity.
That is wild.
And then Jimmy Durante, he was this comedic force of nature,
Just all gravelly voice
Yeah.
and physical chaos, right?
Totally. And then Bob Hope had this razor-sharp, rapid-fire timing.
So putting them all together is basically the 1930s equivalent of a modern blockbuster movie.
Oh, yeah. Like starring 3 of the biggest A-list celebrities on the planet today.
But the timing of this specific production is really what makes it so critical, isn't it?
It is, because you have to remember what they were coming out of.
The Great Depression.
Exactly. In 1936, America is just starting to scrape its way out of the darkest, most punishing years of that economic collapse.
Right. The national psyche has been fundamentally battered.
Completely. I mean, people have lost their homes, their savings, their whole sense of security.
So when they finally managed to scrape together enough money for a theater ticket, what are they actually looking for?
Well, they definitely aren't looking for a solemn meditation on human suffering.
No, they've had enough of that in real life.
Right. They are desperate for distraction. But our sources point out they're also really looking for affirmation.
That makes sense.
They want to see something sophisticated to remind them of human capability, but they desperately need excitement.
They need to feel a pulse again.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second, because the person providing that pulse, the architect of this entire show, is Cole Porter.
Yes, the legendary Cole Porter.
And looking at his background in our research, he seems like the absolute last person on earth who should be writing a working-class anthem about having lowbrow taste.
It is a massive contradiction.
I mean, by 1936, Porter is coming off these massive, legendary successes.
Oh, yeah. Anything Goes in 1934, and Jubilee in 1935.
So he is practically theatrical royalty at this point.
What's fascinating here is Porter's unique cultural positioning.
Yeah.
It's just full of contradictions.
How so?
Well, he is the furthest thing from lowbrow you could possibly imagine.
Right, because of his background.
Exactly. He was born into immense wealth in Indiana. He was educated at Yale and Harvard.
Wow, Yale and Harvard.
Yeah. He lived transatlantically. He was throwing these notoriously lavish parties in Paris and Venice.
Just moving in the absolute highest circles of international society.
Precisely. And he possessed this intimate knowledge of Parisian culture, Greek mythology, classic literature.
And crucially, European classical music.
Yes. He lived a life of ultimate elite privilege.
So, wait, I have to ask the obvious question here.
Go for it.
If he's this wealthy, Yale-educated aristocrat throwing parties in Venice, isn't him writing a song about loving lowbrow jazz just, I don't know, cultural tourism?
That is a very common reaction, actually.
Like, is he just a rich guy slumming it for ticket sales? How do we know he actually respected this music and wasn't just monetizing a working-class aesthetic?
That is a very fair question, and it's actually one historians have debated a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But the evidence of his respect is really baked into the architecture of the music itself.
What do you mean?
Well, Porter didn't just casually dabble in popular music. He studied it obsessively.
Even while living that elite lifestyle.
Exactly. While he lived like that, he possessed this instinctive, genius-level understanding of the mass American audience.
Right.
He spent time in Harlem jazz clubs. He actually listened to the rhythms of the street.
So he wasn't just observing the culture from a balcony somewhere?
No, he was actively synthesizing it. And because he knew the strict rules of high art so well, it made him incredibly lethal when he decided to break them.
Oh, I love that. So it's totally deliberate.
Completely deliberate.
It makes me think of, like, a modern film director who has the absolute pedigree to win the grand prize at Cannes.
Right, someone who makes those deeply intellectual, esoteric art films.
Exactly. But then they deliberately choose to pivot and make an explosive, crowd-pleasing summer blockbuster with car chases and aliens.
Yes, that is a perfect analogy.
And they don't do it because they are selling out, but because they intuitively know that a visceral, shared popcorn experience is what the culture actually needs to feel connected.
Right. And within the context of the show Red Hot and Blue, this title song serves as a really brilliant character piece.
Because it immediately aligns the performer with the audience's tastes.
Exactly. In this case, Ethel Merman. It aligns her with contemporary modern tastes.
So Porter is writing from a place of high culture, but he is deliberately choosing to elevate the lowbrow.
He's winking at the audience, basically. He's giving them permission to just enjoy themselves.
You know, if you listening right now have ever had to code switch between your professional, polished, cultured self during a serious Monday morning meeting.
Oh, we've all been there.
And your loud, fun-loving, totally uninhibited self on a Friday night out with your friends, you understand the exact dynamic Porter is playing with.
He's officially validating the Friday night self.
And he wastes absolutely no time setting up this clash of cultures either.
He gets right into it.
Right in the very first verse, he uses the absolute heavy hitters of the European musical canon as his ultimate punchlines.
Let's look at the lyrics from our sources, actually.
Yeah, the singer starts by explicitly stating their bias.
The line goes, "Due to the tragic lowness of my brow, all music that's highbrow gets me upset."
We definitely need a pause on that opening line because the terminology itself is so incredibly loaded.
It really is. The concept of highbrow and lowbrow wasn't just casual slang in the 1930s.
Yeah.
No, it actually stems from 19th century phrenology.
Hold on, phrenology? You mean that debunked Victorian pseudoscience where they literally measured the bumps on people's skulls to determine their intelligence?
Yes, exactly that. It's
Yeah.
wild to think about now.
That is insane.
The pseudoscientific theory was that a literal higher brow, a larger forehead, indicated a larger brain.
And therefore greater intelligence and refinement.
Right. And conversely, a lower brow indicated a more primitive, unevolved nature.
So by the time we get to the 1930s, the medical pseudoscience part had been widely debunked.
Mostly, yeah. But the vocabulary had permanently embedded itself in the culture as a shorthand for class and taste hierarchy.
So highbrow meant serious, European, intellectual, and refined.
And lowbrow meant popular, American, visceral, and totally unrefined.
That is wild. So when the singer says, "Due to the tragic lowness of my brow," They are actively claiming a label that was originally meant as a literal insult.
Yes, but they're framing it ironically.
Tragic lowness. Like they are playing the victim of their own supposedly terrible taste.
Exactly. And then Porter delivers what has to be one of the greatest lyrical jokes of the entire decade.
It is so good. The singer explains what happens when they encounter high culture.
He writes, "Each time I hear a strain of Stravinsky's, I hurry to Minsky's and try to forget."
If we connect this to the bigger picture of 1930s culture, the sheer brilliance of that contrast is just staggering.
Our reference document actually provides fantastic context on this.
Yeah, let's talk about Igor Stravinsky. He was a Russian-born composer, right?
Yes, and in 1936, he represented the absolute, terrifying zenith of modernist musical sophistication.
Right, he's the guy who wrote The Rite of Spring.
He is.
And didn't that piece literally cause a riot when it premiered in Paris?
It absolutely did.
How does a piece of classical music cause a physical riot? What is the actual mechanism there?
Well, it caused a riot because it physically assaulted the audience's expectations of what music was supposed to do.
Like they were just completely shocked by it.
Right. Before Stravinsky, orchestral audiences expected sweeping melodies, predictable harmonies.
Clear sense of narrative.
Exactly. Stravinsky just threw all of that out the window.
What did he do instead?
He used massive, dissonant chords, notes that actively clash and grind against each other.
Ouch.
But more importantly, he used unpredictable polyrhythms.
Yeah.
He would layer conflicting time signatures on top of each other.
So the audience's brains literally couldn't find the downbeat.
Yes. The music was violent, it was jagged, and it was mathematically incredibly complex.
And the Parisian audience in 1913 was so disturbed and agitated by this sonic assault that they started shouting.
Shouting, throwing things, actual fistfights broke out in the aisles.
That is unbelievable. So Stravinsky is intellectual seriousness and aggressive modernism completely personified.
Yeah.
Listening to him is like doing advanced calculus while someone yells at you.
That is a very accurate description.
And what is the singer's cure for this intellectual exhaustion? I hurry to Minsky's.
Yes, Minsky's.
Our sources explain that Minsky's was a really famous New York theater chain known for risque burlesque shows.
Basically, they popularized the striptease in America.
So it was the absolute opposite of the Parisian concert hall.
Complete opposite. Minsky's was neon lights, cheap cigars, bawdy comedians.
And brassy, loud, totally uncomplicated music.
It was pure, unadulterated, working-class titillation.
It's like leaving a grueling university lecture on quantum physics and walking directly into a monster truck rally.
Exactly. And the joke relies entirely on the listener understanding the vast, almost absurd distance between those two cultural poles.
The sophisticated modernist composer drives the singer directly into the arms of cheap, scandalous entertainment.
And to top it off, rhyming Stravinsky's with Minsky's is just linguistic whiplash.
It really shouldn't work, but it perfectly captures the collision of those two worlds.
And, Porter's just getting started here.
Oh, yeah. He immediately moves his target from the modernists to the cherished German and Austrian romantics.
The lyric continues, "I don't like Schubert's music or Schumann's."
He just casually dismisses two of the most important figures in musical history in half a breath.
Without a second thought.
Franz Schubert, the man who wrote hundreds of the most beautiful, delicate art songs and sweeping symphonies in the early 19th century.
Gone.
And Robert Schumann, celebrated for these deeply expressive, highly emotional piano works that defined the Romantic era.
Tossed aside like they're just boring guys at a party.
This is where we really see the architecture of the song taking shape.
Porter is establishing a very deliberate pattern of rejection.
He is taking the names that educated audiences have been taught from birth to revere unconditionally.
And he's treating them with absolute flippant indifference.
And he escalates it in the next lines. The singer proudly states, "I'm for the guy that eludes Bach sonatas and Chopin preludes."
Okay, I have to step in here because this is where my brain starts to hurt a little bit.
Right.
When I read eludes Bach sonatas, I mean Johann Sebastian Bach.
The undisputed master of Baroque counterpoint.
His music is structural perfection.
And Frédéric Chopin's preludes, these are poetic, emotional piano masterpieces that demand incredible technical skill to play.
So is Porter actually trying to argue that this classical music is inherently bad?
Well, look at the rhyming structure he just used. rhyming the verb eludes with the noun preludes.
Yes, let's really look at that.
That is incredibly complex, mathematically perfect wordplay.
He is slotting syllables together like interlocking gears.
He is writing with the exact same obsessive mathematical precision that Bach used to write his fugues.
It's so true.
So is he actually hating on classical music, or is he a classical musician basically wearing a burlesque disguise?
This raises an incredibly important question about authorial intent. And the answer is the key to the entire song.
What is it?
The joke is not that Bach or Chopin or Stravinsky are bad composers. Porter knew better than almost anyone alive how brilliant they were. I mean, his own composition style relied heavily on the foundations they built.
So who's the joke on?
The joke is entirely on the singer, and specifically the singer's absolute lack of self-control.
Wait, explain that. How is the joke on the singer?
Well, the narrator is essentially making a confession.
A confession of what?
They are admitting that they are so hopelessly addicted to the modern popular rhythms of 1936, to the literal beat of their own era, that even the greatest, most transcendent masterpieces of human history cannot hold their attention.
Have you ever tried to tap your foot to a complex Bach fugue?
You really can't.
Right. The time signatures are just too rigid, or they overlap in ways that don't give you a groove.
Exactly. So the classical music is treated with respect. I mean, the sheer inclusion of these names carries the weight of that respect.
But it is also treated with a deeply affectionate irreverence.
Porter is basically saying, yes, Bach is an undisputed genius. His architecture is flawless. But right now, in this particular moment in my life, I just really need to tap my foot and feel alive.
That is intensely relatable to how we consume media today.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like knowing you should watch that critically acclaimed 3-hour black and white documentary about agricultural reform that's been sitting in your streaming queue for 6 months.
You know it's important. You know it will make you a better, smarter person.
But instead, it's 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, you're tired, and you just binge watch an entire season of a reality dating show where people scream at each other on a beach.
Because your brain doesn't need agricultural reform right now. It needs the immediate, visceral dopamine hit.
That is the perfect modern equivalent. We all have that friction between the art we feel obligated to revere and the entertainment we actually crave.
And Porter captures that exact feeling of cultural exhaustion flawlessly.
So if the European masters, the Bachs, the Schuberts, the Stravinskys, represent the solemn intellectual weight that the singer is running away from,
Right.
we have to look at what exactly is waiting for them at their destination. What is the cure for this highbrow fatigue?
Throughout the song, the singer repeatedly demands a melody that is red, hot, and blue.
Now, we know it's a catchy title, but what does that phrase actually mean in the mechanical musical context of 1936?
Well, red, hot, and blue is a wonderfully evocative phrase.
Yeah?
According to the analytical sources we're reviewing, Porter is taking a simple patriotic color combination and transforming it into a sweeping declaration of aesthetic allegiance.
Wow. So in this context, it isn't just about America.
No, it's specifically about jazz. It means swing music. It suggests the blues. It suggests heat, excitement, sexuality, and raw emotional intensity.
It's the sound of the nightlife.
Precisely. This is music that lives and breathes in dimly lit, crowded nightclubs, not in sterile, well-lit concert halls.
Classical music, generally speaking, asks you to sit still and contemplate the divine.
But red, hot, and blue music bypasses the brain entirely.
It's designed to make your hips physically decouple from your spine.
It swings rather than lectures.
I love that. And the lyrics give us very specific examples of who the champions of this visceral swinging sound are.
Right after the singer dismisses Schubert and Schumann as basically unlistenable, they say they are one of those humans who only goes in for Berlin and Vincent Youmans.
Let's break down those two names because they are so crucial to Porter's argument.
Irving Berlin is perhaps one of the most important foundational figures in all of American music.
He wrote God Bless America, right?
He wrote God Bless America, White Christmas, Putting on the Ritz, Alexander's Ragtime Band.
Wow.
He wrote over 1,500 songs. He was a Russian Jewish immigrant who essentially defined the vocabulary of the 20th century American popular song.
He was the literal pulse of the nation.
And what about Vincent Youmans? He's a name that isn't quite as recognizable today.
True. Vincent Youmans was Broadway royalty in the 1920s and 30s.
He's a contemporary of Porter's, right?
Yeah, known for incredibly sophisticated, catchy melodies in smash hit shows like No, No, Nanette.
He wrote massive standards like Tea for Two.
So if Berlin was the heartbeat of American pop, Youmans epitomized the slick, polished, modern sophistication of Broadway.
Here's where it gets really interesting to me.
Yeah.
By placing Irving Berlin and Vincent Youmans directly in the exact same stanza as Schubert and Schumann, Porter is doing something incredibly audacious.
No, he really is.
He is elevating contemporary, living, breathing American popular songwriters to the exact same pedestal as European historical titans.
It's a total leveling of the cultural playing field.
Imagine someone today looking you dead in the eye and saying, look, I know Mozart is great and all, but honestly, I'd rather listen to the new beat tape by this 22-year-old pop producer in Atlanta.
It's almost offensive in its confidence.
It is deeply confident. And Porter takes it even further.
Moving beyond the Broadway composers and bringing in the raw power of the jazz artists.
The lyric takes this sudden, almost aggressive turn. He says, I swear I'd throw my best pal away for Calloway.
Cab Calloway.
Yes. Our historical reference guide notes that Cab Calloway was a monumental figure.
A defining icon of the Harlem Renaissance, right?
Absolutely. He was a charismatic American band leader, famous for his oversized zoot suits, his incredibly kinetic stage presence.
And his massive hits like Minnie the Moocher.
But mechanically, what he was truly known for was scat singing.
Okay, let's pause there for a second to make sure we're all on the same page.
Sure.
How would you describe scat singing mechanically to someone who has never heard it?
Well, scat singing is essentially vocal jazz improvisation.
Okay.
Instead of syncing words with a set narrative meaning, the singer uses their voice exactly like a horn or a drum.
They use nonsense syllables, right? Like do-up-up, shooby-doo.
Exactly, to create pure, rapid-fire rhythm and melody.
That sounds incredibly difficult.
It requires immense breath control, a genius-level understanding of chord progressions, and lightning-fast reflexes.
It is the absolute opposite of singing a carefully written, solemn Bach chorale.
It is spontaneous creation in real time.
That paints such a clear picture. So Calloway represents the absolute cutting edge of the exciting, modern, unpredictable world of swing and jazz.
And look at the lyric again. I swear I'd throw my best pal away for Calloway.
The narrator loves this swinging, spontaneous music so intensely that they would literally sacrifice a human friendship just to hear Cab Calloway perform.
It really highlights the intoxicating, almost dangerous power of the music.
It isn't just polite toe-tapping in a parlor room, it's an obsession.
It's an addiction to the groove.
And if we extrapolate this to the bigger picture, to what was happening in America in 1936, this makes perfect sense.
We are right at the dawn of the swing era.
Jazz had spent the 1920s as something of a controversial novelty.
It was often viewed with deep suspicion by the cultural establishment, sometimes even labeled as a corrupting influence.
But by the mid-30s, it had totally evolved. Big bands were dominating the radio, the dance halls, and the record sales.
It was becoming the defining national art form.
So Porter is essentially planting a flag in the culture.
He's looking at the landscape and officially declaring that America's musical present jazz, swing, and Broadway is not just a fun, disposable alternative to Europe's musical past.
He is arguing that for the modern American, this music is actually vastly superior in its ability to capture the speed, the anxiety, and the vitality of modern life.
He is validating the American musical identity.
But, you know, running away from Stravinsky and praising Cab Calloway is only half the battle.
Right.
If you're going to reject the musical elite, you need a structure powerful enough to support that rejection.
You can't just list things. You have to weaponize them.
And this brings us to Porter's absolute, undeniable genius. How he physically smashes these two worlds together.
Using a very specific Broadway technique called the list song.
The list song is such a fascinating structural tool, and nobody did it better than Cole Porter.
Mechanically, rather than telling a linear narrative where A leads to B leads to C, a list song creates emotional and comedic momentum through rapid accumulation.
It piles up references, one after another, building a thematic argument through unexpected pairings.
How does that actually work in practice, though? How does a list build momentum?
Well, it works through acceleration and anticipation.
Okay.
As the song progresses, the rhymes often get tighter and closer together. The listener starts to realize a pattern is forming.
And they begin anticipating the punchline before it even lands.
Exactly. The singer's breath has to accommodate more syllables, literally accelerating the perceived heartbeat of the song.
It creates a feeling of overwhelming, dizzying abundance.
And the collisions he creates in this particular list song are legendary.
Let's look at the second refrain, because this is where he brings out the heavy artillery.
The singer is talking about the music that really moves them, and they deliver this absolute knockout of a rhyme.
But my Waterloo won't be Wellington, but Ellington.
Let's take a moment to really break down the layers of that single joke, because the historical weight behind it is just staggering.
The setup is rooted entirely in 19th century military history.
Right. In 1815, the French Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte, who had conquered most of Europe, met his final, decisive, world-altering defeat at the Battle of Waterloo.
And the man who defeated him was the commander of the British coalition, the Duke of Wellington.
It is arguably the most famous military victory in modern Western history.
It's so famous that meeting your Waterloo became a common, everyday idiom for facing your ultimate defeat or surrendering to something insurmountable.
You hear it all the time.
Correct. So Porter sets up this grand, solemn, historical expectation.
But then he completely subverts it.
He writes, "But my Waterloo won't be Wellington, but Ellington."
He literally replaces the legendary military conqueror, the Duke of Wellington, with Duke Ellington.
Duke Ellington,
Ah.
the groundbreaking American jazz composer, the pianist, the band leader, who was actively redefining harmony in jazz with pieces like Mood Indigo.
And who would soon become synonymous with Take the A Train.
Exactly. Porter literally turns centuries of European military history into a jazz joke.
The entire setup of Napoleon and Waterloo exists in this song solely to deliver the punchline of an American jazz pioneer.
And functionally, mechanically, it works on every single level.
It's a perfect rhyme, it's intellectually clever, but it reinforces the core emotional theme.
The singer will not surrender to a historical conqueror. They will only surrender to the unstoppable swing of Duke Ellington's orchestra.
That is just brilliant writing. It's taking the gravitas of history and making it swing.
And he pulls a very similar, equally audacious trick with the scenario of a wedding.
Now, a wedding is supposed to be this solemn, highly traditional, sacred event.
But the singer issues a strict warning to their future spouse.
They say, so when we're all set and I get married to you, don't let that violin start playing Lohengrin.
Another perfect cultural collision, reliant entirely on the listener knowing the mechanism of the music.
Right. Lohengrin is a monumental romantic opera written by Richard Wagner, premiered in 1850.
In the third act of this opera, there is a piece of music formerly known as the bridal chorus.
You and everyone listening know the tune. It goes, "Here comes the bride."
It is arguably the most famous, deeply ingrained piece of wedding music in the entire Western world.
But the singer absolutely rejects it. They say, it may be sweet as sin, but it's not red hot and blue.
They are literally banning Richard Wagner from their wedding.
Why? Because you can't swing to it.
Think about the physical feeling of walking to the bridal chorus. It's a rigid, solemn 4/4 march.
Step, pause, step, pause. It demands a straight spine and serious face.
Trying to swing or syncopate to Wagner is like trying to do the Lindy Hop while wearing a full suit of medieval armor.
It physically does not work.
That's a wonderful analogy, and it perfectly illustrates the conflict.
And Porter isn't quite done with Wagner yet. He saves his biggest Wagnerian target for the grand finale of the song.
The closing lines of the second refrain are, "I've no desire to hear Flagstad's Brunhilde dear. She waves a pretty spear, but she's not red hot and blue."
Okay, we absolutely have to talk about Kirsten Flagstad. Our reference materials spend quite a bit of time on her.
Who was she, and why is she the ultimate punchline here?
Kirsten Flagstad was a Norwegian soprano, and in the 1930s, she was considered the greatest Wagnerian soprano in the world.
Specifically, she was famous for playing Brunhilde, the iconic, tragic warrior maiden of Norse mythology, who appears throughout Wagner's massive 15-hour ring cycle.
A 15-hour opera.
Yes, it is the definition of heavy, serious art.
And mechanically, to sing Wagner, you need a voice of almost superhuman strength, right?
Absolutely. A Wagnerian soprano has to cut through a 100-piece orchestra playing at full volume without any electronic amplification for hours at a time.
Flagstad's voice was described as a force of nature.
She was one of the most famous, respected, and highly paid opera stars on the planet.
Her performances at the Metropolitan Opera were massive cultural events.
She represented the absolute pinnacle of serious, heavy, dramatic vocal art.
And Cole Porter reduces this monumental, superhuman operatic performance to, she waves a pretty spear, but she's not red, hot, and blue.
He acknowledges the staging, the Viking spear, but just waves her away like she's a minor, boring annoyance at a cocktail party.
Which brings me to a really pressing question, and something I've been wondering since we started looking at these lyrics.
What's that?
When I look at the sheer density of this Liszt song, how on earth did a theater audience in 1936 know enough about all of this to actually laugh?
What do you mean?
Well, think about it. To get the jokes in this one song in real time as Ethel Merman is belting it out, you have to know 19th century military history.
Right, Wellington and Waterloo.
You have to know the mechanics of Wagnerian opera, like Flagstad and Lohengrin.
You have to know Finnish nationalist symphonies, because he mentions Jean Sibelius elsewhere in the song.
You have to know impressionist English composers like Frederick Delius.
And, on top of all that, you have to know the latest nightclub bandleaders of the Harlem Renaissance like Calloway and Duke Ellington.
Were audiences back then just walking encyclopedias? How did they not get lost?
This raises a vital question about the nature of the cultural ecosystem in the 1930s.
It occupied an incredibly unique space that is hard for us to imagine today.
Today, we tend to heavily silo our entertainment. We have high art spaces, and we have pop culture spaces.
Right. The algorithms feed us only what we already like, so those worlds rarely overlap.
But the audience attending Red Hot and Blue in 1936 possessed a staggering breadth of shared cultural knowledge because those worlds were forced closer together.
How so?
Because of the limitations of mass media at the time.
Ah, I see.
Classical music, opera, history, and jazz were all part of the same daily cultural conversation.
They were reviewed side by side in the same newspapers.
They were broadcast on the same radio networks.
Right.
Toscanini conducting Beethoven might be programmed an hour before Benny Goodman played swing.
The audience was exposed to all of it constantly.
So an audience member could comfortably chuckle at a highly specific highbrow joke about a Wagnerian soprano's prop spear while simultaneously tapping their feet to a lowbrow, jazz-inflected show tune.
Without feeling any cognitive dissonance whatsoever.
Precisely. And Porter banked on that. He understood that the humor depended entirely on the audience recognizing both sides of the collision.
The audience felt smart for understanding the high art references to Delius and Sibelius,
while simultaneously enjoying the pure, rebellious thrill of discarding them for a jazz beat.
It was a shared ecosystem of cultural literacy.
But, relying on that specific localized cultural literacy brings us to a somewhat bittersweet reality about examining this song almost a century later.
Because when we open up this incredible musical time capsule from 1936, we are forced to confront the fact that fame, even massive world-conquering front-page fame, is a very fickle thing.
It is the ultimate equalizer. Our analytical source spends significant time reflecting on how cultural memory inevitably fades.
In 1936, figures like Kirsten Flagstad, Frederick Delius, and Jean Sibelius were the absolute pinnacles of high culture.
They were international superstars. Their names evoked instant awe and recognition.
Yet today, if you play this song for an average listener, those names almost certainly require a Wikipedia search.
They have slipped from the forefront of public consciousness into the realm of specialized academic study.
While at the exact same time, the supposedly lowbrow jazz and pop artists that Porter championed Duke Ellington, Irving Berlin, have endured and flourished.
Their legacies are globally recognized. Ellington's music is ubiquitous. It's practically the DNA of American jazz.
Irving Berlin's songs are woven into the very fabric of American holidays.
And Calloway is still referenced in pop culture today.
And this disparity is exactly what makes a Cole Porter Liszt song such a vital, irreplaceable historical document.
By putting all these names together in a comic lyric, pitting them against each other in real time, Porter inadvertently preserved the exact values of that era.
The specific celebrities and the cultural aspirations of 1936 America.
It's like a snapshot frozen in amber. It shows us exactly who mattered to a Broadway audience in that specific year, how they ranked them, and what they valued.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening right now?
Why should you, in the 21st century, care about a rhyming list of names from 1936?
Because the specific names may have changed, but the central conflict of this song, this eternal tug-of-war between elite taste and popular taste, between the brain and the body, is completely timeless.
Every single generation has this exact same debate. We just swap out the nouns.
We truly do. The battle lines are constantly redrawn, but the war is the same.
Think about the arguments we have today on social media, in group chats, or in reviews.
We argue incessantly over what constitutes true cinema versus what is just a theme park movie.
You have legendary Academy Award-winning directors criticizing massive superhero blockbusters for lacking artistic depth.
And you have massive audiences fiercely defending those blockbusters because they provide a visceral, shared emotional experience.
We argue over what is real literature versus what is just genre fiction or a beach read.
We argue over the value of rigorous classical musical training versus a kid producing world-conquering beats on a laptop in their bedroom.
It is the exact same line drawn in the sand that Cole Porter drew between Igor Stravinsky and Minsky's burlesque.
If we synthesize all of this, if we look at the mechanics of the song and the history behind it, Porter's ultimate thesis remains remarkably fresh.
And surprisingly profound for a comic Broadway tune.
He is arguing quite forcefully that if art moves you, if it genuinely excites you, and if it makes you want to get up and dance, then it possesses a fundamental, undeniable value.
And that visceral value cannot be diminished, erased, or invalidated by academic prestige or high society gatekeeping.
He manages to laugh at pretension without ever rejecting sophistication.
Exactly. You can appreciate the flawless architecture of a Bach fugue, and you can still want to swing. You don't have to choose.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's briefly retrace our steps.
We started with a stack of lyrics, a historical reference guide, and an analytical essay.
And by unpacking them, we uncovered Cole Porter's masterful 1936 manifesto.
We found a song that brilliantly laughed at high society pretension, enthusiastically championed the raw, sweaty vitality of American jazz,
And perfectly captured the transition of an entire culture through dazzling rhymes and hilarious musical collisions.
It truly is a masterpiece of both comic songwriting and cultural commentary.
And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
We've spent this entire time talking about how Cole Porter's ultimate joke was elevating popular lowbrow American jazz over the revered, centuries-old European classical canon.
But consider what has happened in the 90 years since Red Hot and Blue debuted.
Today, jazz and the early American songbook are studied in elite conservatories.
They have become academic, they're dissected by scholars, analyzed for their harmonic complexity, and performed in hushed, reverent concert halls.
In many ways, the music Porter championed as rebellious is the new classical music.
It became the very thing it was running away from.
Exactly. So my question to you is this. If you were to write a modern version of Red Hot and Blue today, what supposedly lowbrow genre would you use to shock the modern musical establishment?
Has the boundary between high art and pop culture finally disappeared in the internet age? Or are we simply drawing the exact same lines around completely different types of music?
The diagnostic muddy waters of culture.
We always want things to be binary, high or low, smart or dumb, Stravinsky or Minsky's. But the reality is always so much messier and so much more interesting.
Keep that in mind the next time you feel guilty about your playlist.
Let the brass blare, let the rhythm swing, and don't let anyone tell you what to tap your foot to.